Thank you for having us at this conference. I'm going to talk about a little bit about the history of our library and how it dealt with the post-war situation. The information is mainly aimed at our international participants to give you some context. It was officially opened in 1941 in the Rector's Palace in the Old City. It was subsequently separated from the public library and due to lack of space moved to this Renaissance summer villa Skočibuha about 1 kilometer west of the city walls. The collections held in the research library are significantly older than the date of foundation would suggest. The core collection consisted of the special collection Collegium Raguzinum, originally from the Jesuit College, as well as numerous smaller donations by Dubrovnik families and individuals. The library has also received the deposit copy of all titles published in Croatia since 1966. All of these collections put together meant that in 1991, the library's holdings had amounted to 250,000 books and other publications. However, the value cannot be expressed by numbers alone. The special heritage collections held at the time 10,490 books published between 1500 and 1808, 77 incunabula, around 900 manuscripts, the oldest of which dates from the 11th century, collection of letters, collection of librettos, and also the Raguzina collection, which then held 13,000 volumes. So in the year 1991, in the first half of the year, everything was normal. The library functioned normally. However, all that changed towards the end of the summer. The city of Dubrovnik was first attacked by mortar shells on October 1st, 1991. The research library was then closed for public, and most of the staff were moved to the public library. The director at the time, Mrs. Mirjana Urban, with the custodian, remained in the research library, even though her own son was killed while photographing the destruction of the old city. The library materials were not moved yet at this time. The collections of incunabula, manuscripts, and correspondence were locked in strong metal cabinets on the ground floor of the villa, while the collection of 16th to 18th century books remained on open shelves in the so-called treasury room upstairs. Well, unfortunately, the library came under attack on June 8th, 1992. There were around 20 people in the gardens and in the area, most of them neighbors who were using the basement as a bomb shelter. But fortunately, no one was injured. The building was fired upon with 5 missiles. Here you can see the first floor, the top floor. The roof and the northeastern corner of the first floor was severely damaged, and there was also structural damage to the building, which is a historical landmark in itself. 3 missiles also hit the garden. One of the rooms and the reading room upstairs were destroyed beyond recognition. The library collections that were lost include parts of the periodicals collection, a number of card catalogs, and reference books. Fortunately, the heritage collections remained intact. The roof was repaired relatively quickly, and some 20 days later, the Ministry of Culture issued an order that the most valuable collections be relocated. Architects and structural engineers also ordered that the building be evacuated. The Bank of Dubrovnik offered their underground vault as a safe space, and so began an operation in which the library director and 5 members of staff, with the aid of a conservator from Zagreb and the civil protection forces, packed all the 10,490 volumes of old and rare books into 97 metal trunks and transported them into the bank building. Here you can see the trunks. For the next 6 years, the the collections remained in the bank basement, in the vault, and Mrs. Urban, the director, tried in every possible way to secure the return of the priceless books to a safe and suitable place. The city of Dubrovnik assigned the Baroque palace in the city walls to the Research Library. However, that building had yet to be thoroughly renovated and adapted for library purposes. So between 1992 and 1998, most of the Research Library staff were either retired or reassigned to work in the public library. The building of Skočibuha was deemed unsafe to work. And finally, in August 1998, under supervision by a paper conservation specialist from the Croatian National Archive, the 97 metal cases with books were brought back to the Skočibuha gardens. The official report following the relocation was written promptly, and it contains information regarding the condition of the books and the cost of restoration. There was never an official reparation of war damages, but the books were gradually sent to Zagreb to restoration as the library received funds from either donations or by Ministry of Culture in smaller amounts. The city of Dubrovnik gave the library a new building in the old city where all the heritage as well as administration offices are still situated today, and it is the official seat of Dubrovnik Libraries. It was opened in the spring of 2000 when the collection of old and rare books was finally situated in appropriate conditions. A second building right around the corner was allocated to the public library. Currently, this palace, where we are now, holds around 39,000 volumes of books and periodicals, while the rest of the library's holdings remain in the same Villa Skočibuha outside of the city walls. We have a plan for evacuation and protection of staff and library materials, which starts with the vault with incunabula and manuscripts and involves the same metal cases used in the past. It was made in cooperation with an occupational safety firm from Zagreb. Now my colleagues, paper restorers, will give you an overview of the examination, cleaning, and conservation of the evacuated collection, and also present-day situation. Thank you for your attention.
On August 18, 1998, the heritage collection was transferred from the vault of Dubrovnik Bank to Skočibuha complex. Regarding the size, weight, and number of trunks, Croatian army was engaged with the transfer. At that time, due to war destruction, since the main building was still structurally damaged, the only possible storage place was a small outbuilding under the eastern wall of the property, which also did not have adequate storage condition, and it was decided that it would serve as a temporary solution for the heritage collection. While the most valuable copies, manuscripts, and incunabula were housed inside hermetically sealed metal safes inside the main building. The situation at that time, there's no conservator employed in the library, and the expert from the State Archives in Zagreb, Ms. Mušnjak, is invited to attend the transfer and opening of the trunks. 2 trunks were opened as a test in the garden on the first day, and then the procedure continued for the next 4 days. The director, Ms. Urban, the conservator, Ms. Mušnjak, and several other librarians worked in a very hot and humid environment with minimal equipment. From the August 18th to the evening of 21st August, the books were taken out of the crates, inspected, mechanically cleaned, and stacked on the shelves of a temporary storage. While inspecting, a short and exact description of the condition of the entire collection was made, along with a list of damaged items. Due to weather condition, there was heavy rain, and the inspection of a total of 97 boxes was accelerated, so 34 of them were inspected in details, and the books were cleaned using an ordinary vacuum cleaner and a soft brush, while mold and mildew were cleaned with cotton swabs. Now, after 6 years in hermetically sealed trunks, books were on the shelves in a closed storage. On 22nd August in the morning, when the storage room was open, there was a very unpleasant odor that could possibly be bacteria and mold. Now it was clear that decontamination has to be done. They tried to do the analysis of the particles, but unfortunately the Croatian Institute of Public Health in Dubrovnik at that time didn't have the equipment for that kind of analysis. Having in mind that not all books were thoroughly cleaned, the decontamination couldn't be done by coating the books. Instead, they decided to soak the newspaper sheets in the solution of 5% thymol in 96% alcohol and place it above the shelves and on the floor. Regarding the condition of books, on a large number of books was visible physical, chemical, biological, and mechanical damage. And it is important to state that we cannot know which damage was caused by storage and transport condition during the war period and which was damaged before. Now, my colleague will talk more about the recent history of the collection in the next slide.
Hello. In 2001, part of the library material, heritage collection, moved to the Baroque Palace Basilica Boga in the old town of Dubrovnik. Manuscripts, incunabula, and correspondence remained in the Skočibuha mansion in metal vaults that are inadequate for storing paper material until the vault space in the Research Library building was made available in 2010. In 2008, the first restorer was hired, and since then, the systematic implementation of preventive conservation of materials has begun. Currently, the library employs 3 conservators restorers. Due to the large volume of material, in recent years, priority has been given to preventive conservation in order to protect as much of the fund as possible. In space of vault and heritage collection, were installed the humidifiers, which significantly reduced microclimate oscillations. Many of material from the vault is now placed in different types of folders, boxes, and envelopes that are made of archive, acid-free cardboard or paper. For all of collections are done recommendations for conservation and restoration work. Many of them are already inspected, described, and properly documented. Possible crisis situations that could happen in future are flood, fire, earthquake, war, and so on. And the building of a research library doesn't have adequate physical or technical protection and has an outdated burglary system. However, as in the case of fire protection, a more favorable financial situation is expected to implement the plans. Also, there's a greater risk of flooding, especially because of natural disasters such as heavy rains. And in the event of stronger earthquake, also the damage to the building would be significant. The risk of war and its destruction is very small, but it must not be ruled out. In this case, primarily people would be endangered and the rescue of material would be done only if the conditions were safe for the life and health of the workers who would evacuate the books. As the fund of the Research Library of Dubrovnik has over 40,000 volumes of books, periodicals, and other archival material, an evacuation plan has been made according to the priority of cultural and historical value. In crisis response plan of Research Library, we have a list of employers ranked in hierarchical order with the belonging tasks for better coordination in crisis situations. For transferring material, we have near 100 trunks that are made of thick aluminum sheet. They are corrosion resistant to both low and high temperatures, and they don't leak water or dust. And regarding to the setting of evacuated material, is a recommendation to ask the city of Dubrovnik for consent to move the evacuated material temporarily to one of the nuclear shelters in the area of the city of Dubrovnik. Thank you for attention.